All right. Hey, hello, everybody. We are live on the Hot Zone. Thank you for watching. And thank you. Welcome to those of you who came over from the live I just finished over on CBN's YouTube channel. And this is my last night in Israel for this trip. I'm heading to the airport in the morning, and I'll be flying to Dubai, and I may do a live from Dubai, perhaps. We'll see what happens. And then flying back to Panama. I'll be in Panama for about a week, and then we're flying back over here through Dubai, through Abu Dhabi to Armenia for our upcoming Armenia tour. And we're going to be in Armenia for about 10 days with 2 grandbabies. I'm very excited about that. And then we will go straight from Armenia to Jordan and pick up our tour that starts on October 1st here and do our Jordan-Israel tour. And then we'll get to go back home to Panama, maybe. Again, just depends, maybe. So that's where I am right now. That was just 1 minute. Now, again, I do get people who complain about the long form. They say I'm rambling, and I do tend to, go on. I can talk for a long time, as you know, about a lot of things. And so, I got a lot of words. That's me. Some people like that. Some people don't. If you're one of those people who doesn't, what I've started doing is posting a daily 2 to 3 minute update on what's going on here in Israel. And it seems to be popular. People seem to like that. So I will continue to do those as long as they continue to be popular. And so if you like those, if you go watch it and you want just a quick little snack size nugget of what's going on here in Israel in the war, just a quick little update without a lot of commentary, you can go right over to my channel here and look for those daily updates that I am now posting. Okay, got my pond water. It's getting pretty, I'm getting down to the bottom of this one. It's getting pretty thick. So it's not really good to wet my whistle because I kind of choke on the pulp. Now, let's talk about a couple of different things here. First of all, prepare to be absolutely disgusted out of your mind today, because what I'm going to talk about is something that is it just makes my head explode. It is so egregious. The amount of money that the United States wastes. I mean, everybody's got to be good at something, but man, our government is good at wasting money. Holy cow. As I've delved deeper into this and done kind of a deep dive into the amount of money the United States is wasting just here in this region on this conflict, it will just blow you away. So let's talk about that. Let's get into it. First of all, just to set the stage, in this war, the United States is supporting Israel. Oh, beeper guy. Where is he? Oh, he's backing up. He's going to be backing up for a while. Oh, there he goes. He's trying to get out. Maybe. Yep. No, he's leaving. Okay. All right. That's it for beeper guy. I'm sure he'll be back. So when it comes to U.S. assistance to Israel alone, the United States gives them about $3.8 billion a year in military aid. Okay? And, oh, now he's back. What's he doing now? This guy just loves to drive backwards everywhere. It's amazing. We give them $3.8 billion a year in military aid alone, primarily allocated for defense and for funding missile systems like the Iron Dome, David Sling, the Arrow system, etc. In 2016, we obligated ourselves to doing this. We signed a 10-year memorandum of understanding. Now what's he doing? Where did he even come from? It's almost like he just knows we're up here and he just does it on purpose. I swear. But he doesn't. He's completely oblivious. I tried talking to him. He's a Russian guy driving this van, and he doesn't even know that he's like a running joke for 6, 8, 9, 10 months now. This is amazing. So in 2016, the United States obligated itself to provide $38 billion in military assistance to Israel. So that averages $3.8 billion a year. And that is trying to help Israel maintain its military supremacy in this region. Okay? And again, like I said, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, if you want to have allies, right? I mean, do you want to just not have any allies? Then this is what you do with allies. You help out allies when they're in need. And Israel was getting a lot of help from us. We got some things for that. Technology, a lot of the technology that's used in the anti-missile systems that the United States uses comes from Israel. We get a lot of other technology from Israel. So they also help us a lot in terms of intelligence. We plug in our intel services with their intel services, and we share information. They give us stuff, we give them stuff. So it's a substantial partnership, and that's okay for me. That's all right. It's still a lot of money, but that's all right. And 3.8 billion in the greater scheme of things is, I mean, the U.S. military budget every year, man, it's loud. It's loud today. There have been probably 15 ambulances that have gone by since I've been standing out here. Not live. I was doing other stuff too, but just nonstop ambulance. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know if something's up or Magen David Adom. I lost my train of thought. So 3.8 billion is not all that much in terms of, what we spend on other things. If you look at the US military budget, for example, it's almost $1 trillion a year. So 3.8 billion is like, drop in the bucket. Not a big deal, but it's still money. And on top of that, we have US troops over here and they cost money. And so we're assisting Israel in that way as well. Now, let's talk about all the ways that we have wasted money helping Israel's enemies. First of all, the glaring pimple of a boondoggle was the floating pier that Joe Biden sent over here for hundreds of millions of dollars. The best I can tell, that whole thing cost right around $1 billion, maybe up to $1.4 billion. But it was a lot more than $300 million. And that was all just a complete political stunt. It really didn't help that many people. It didn't do much for Gaza. It put a lot of troops at risk, ours and the IDF, and it accomplished almost nothing. Very, very little. Some of the most expensive MREs on planet Earth went across that pier. And I guess you could make a case that wasn't giving money directly to the enemy, but we all know, and it's been proven many, many times, that much of the aid that gets sent into Gaza ends up in the hands of Hamas, which it then uses for its own survival or sells to people and uses the money for its own survival. And so it's a method of maintaining control for Hamas inside Gaza. And we're giving that to them. We're facilitating Hamas staying in control by giving them this asset, this currency called food, that's costing us an arm and a leg, taxpayer dollars, and then we're assisting Hamas by giving them the power to distribute that food. Nobody else was able to do it. And we're still doing it. We're just not doing it over the pier. We are sending a tremendous amount of money in there worth of aid, and it is still going to help Hamas. Now, that's not the only way. The United States gives more than $330 million a year to the Palestinian Authority. That $330 million a year is used for paying off people who commit acts of terror against the state of Israel. It's used to recruit people to commit more. It's used to pay stipends to the families of people who are killed when they are in the process of committing acts of terror against Israel. And that's been completely proven. As a matter of fact, it was so well proven that during the Trump administration, he cut all that off, turned it right off. It went to zero. And on his first day in office, Joe Biden turned it right back on again. And so we are, with our taxpayer dollars, hundreds of millions of our taxpayer dollars, we are supporting that organization which is facilitating and rewarding terrorism in Israel. So that's only $330 million. What? No big deal there, right? Well, there are the other, where we train the security guards of the Palestinian Authority. And since 2005, about $850 million has been invested into that program. We provide training programs. We send retired policemen, contractors over here to train their Secret Service, basically their presidential guards. We give them equipment. Hundreds of millions of dollars has been spent on vehicles, communication systems, uniforms, infrastructure improvements to buildings and training facilities, etc. We pay salaries and support for the security personnel. We are paying their salaries. And one of them, yesterday, murdered 3 Israeli policemen. And the United States tax dollars are paying his salary. Well, he's now taking a dirt nap, but they have been paying his salary. That's all part of the broader assistance to, so those two together add up to over $1 billion a year. Now, on top of that, we are giving money to most of the countries around Israel who are either dead set enemies of Israel, or they are, frenemies. Like, Jordan and Saudi Arabia, they're not exactly friends with Israel. Who in the world? They're not exactly friends with Israel. They are not enemies, but they're trying to kind of stay out of it. And one of the reasons they're trying to stay out of it is because the United States is paying them to stay out of it. The U.S. gives Jordan, for example, about $1.65 billion a year. And that takes the form of significant economic and military aid to Jordan to try to ensure that they will be a stable ally in the region. And for the most part, they have been. Although they are made up of 60% Palestinians, and none of those guys support Israel or the United States. So it's kind of weird, at the very least, to think we're giving $1.65 billion a year to a country 60% of whom hate us. But, there's a greater geopolitical strategy at work here. And that's probably the best of all of the countries that we are giving money to in this region, other than Israel itself. And so, maybe we won't complain so much about that one, but it's still another $1.6 billion a year. Donald Trump wanted to build a wall. He needed $15 billion or whatever for that. Boy, there's a lot of places they could have found that money. Skype is, that's what it is. Skype is trying to call me. That's weird. So Jordan is not the only one that is getting this money. Saudi Arabia gets far less. They really don't get any financial assistance from us. Saudi Arabia is richer than we are. They don't need money from us. They would laugh at our money. But we do sell them $100 billion in 2020. In 10 years, about $10 billion a year of military arms. Now, the only concern I have about that is that right now, Saudi Arabia is an ally, but what if they're not? Because, as we'll talk about next, Turkey was an ally, and now they're not. And so by giving them $100 billion worth of American high-tech weaponry, fighter jets, air defense systems, electronic warfare systems, et cetera, are we arming our future enemy? Because all those weapons are durable and fungible. They will last for many years, and they can be taken apart and used, put back together over here, and used against us at some point. But they don't get any direct aid from us. So, okay, we'll, fine. We're giving a lot of people jobs in the United States because of the military equipment we're selling to Saudi Arabia. Okay, that's fine. Now, how about Lebanon? Is Lebanon an ally? No, Lebanon's not an ally. Lebanon doesn't like America, and they don't like Israel. Now, they can be cordial when they have to be, kind of like that old girlfriend that you bump into that things did not go well with, and you bump into her 10 years later, and she's got a couple kids, and she's living in a trailer or something, and she looks at you, and you look at her, and you try to be cordial. Oh, hi, it's good to see you. What have you been up to? I think so, yeah. And you start looking at your watch, like, oh, I'm late for something. I kind of have to, that kind of thing. Lebanon is kind of that kind of friend. But they've been receiving U.S. assistance for many years. And most of that assistance goes to supporting the Lebanese armed forces. Now, I can see the reasoning here. The Lebanese armed forces are not Hezbollah. Many of the people in the Lebanese armed forces are made up of, Christians, Maronite, Alawite Christians, and the leader of the armed forces is a Maronite Christian, but they don't necessarily like Israel either. And a lot of the people in the military are, sergeants and privates and stuff, are Shia. And those guys have brothers and cousins and uncles who are all in Hezbollah. And those Hezbollah guys get a lot more money, like 3 times as much money every month than the little army private in Lebanese army gets paid. And so the Lebanese army is far weaker than Hezbollah is. And a lot of the people in the Lebanese army have close ties to people in Hezbollah, and a lot of them actually moonlight with Hezbollah just to make extra money. So they're not friendly to Israel or the United States. But that doesn't stop the U.S. from giving Lebanon about $300 million a year, most of it in military aid. Now, if a war breaks out between Israel and Lebanon, you can bet that Hezbollah is going to go to the military bases of the Lebanese army, and they're going to help themselves to that military aid that came from the United States, and they're going to use it against Israel. And the Lebanese army won't be able to say a thing about it. And even if they could, they probably wouldn't want to. They probably wouldn't care. So the fact that we're giving them $300 million a year, to me, is just kind of like one of those, what are we doing? Are you kidding me? So is the argument that if we don't give them $300 million a year, that the Lebanese army will collapse and Hezbollah will take over the whole country? I don't see what the difference is. They pretty much have taken over the whole country already. They're in the government. They're a major political party. So, yeah. Now, here's one that might surprise you. How about Syria? You think we give any money to Syria? Well, no, we don't. We don't give money directly to Bashar al-Assad. Thank heaven we don't do that. I'm honestly a little bit surprised that we don't, after all the rest of this. However, we put a ton of humanitarian aid and that kind of assistance into Syria because of the crisis there that's been going on for more than 10 years. A ton, to the tune of about $1 billion a year in financial humanitarian aid and assistance. This focuses on food, shelter, healthcare, and other basic needs for Syrian refugees, internally displaced people, vulnerable populations inside Syria, et cetera, et cetera. But as we have seen in Gaza, as we've seen in Lebanon, I think that we could say it's a pretty fair bet that at least some portion of that $1 billion, that $1,000 million that we give every year to Syria in form of humanitarian aid, some portion of it, some of those millions get diverted and siphoned off, because that's how it works in corrupt countries. And Syria is a country in name only at this point. It's basically a failed state. At least parts of it are. And those parts are the parts where the humanitarian aid is going. So if it's a failed state, you can bet that the nearest warlord or somebody like that is siphoning some off for himself. And that's likely going to support his, fight against whatever group he's fighting against. And that could be Israel. Thank you, Sunday. Very, very kind of you. I appreciate that. Who else gave? Somebody else gave it. Or did Sunday give twice? Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I think maybe that's Sunday twice. Or maybe it just showed up twice. Anyway, appreciate you. So this isn't where it stops either. I want to tell you just a story real quick to help you understand how this kind of corruption works. Many of you have probably donated to a Samaritan's Purse organization called Operation Christmas Child, where you get together with your church and you fill a shoebox full of goodies and you send them off to Guatemala or someplace to bless the kids there on Christmas. And they put some little gospel things in there if they can and try to help out. Well, that is a huge ministry, huge. It's probably Samaritan's Purse's biggest, the biggest part of their ministry is Operation Christmas Child. And they do a lot of good. I mean, they make a lot of kids smile, and that's great. But as with anything, when you try to do good, sometimes that good gets used for bad. And I was in Kenya one time and was in a very remote part of the northern part of Kenya with my 12-year-old son, visiting some missionary friends of ours up there, and mentioned something about Operation Christmas Child. And the missionary who lived there was like, oh, he said, you want to see Operation Christmas Child? Come here, I'll show you Operation Christmas Child. And he took me across the street, down the street a little ways in their little village. And there was a kiosk there that had all these boxes piled up for sale. And they were all those Operation Christmas Child boxes. They were all just piled up for sale in these kiosks. I'm like, wait a minute, why are they selling those? They give those away at Christmas. He said, yeah, they do. They come in here and they give those boxes away to all the kids. They get them all together at the school and they hand them all a box. And then when they leave, the warlords come in and they go around and they collect up all those boxes from the kids and they bring them out here and they put them up for sale in the marketplace. And then as they sell those items out of those boxes, the money that they make goes to help them buy weapons so that they can fight their, their battles, fight their enemies. Now, I'm not saying this to disparage Operation Christmas Child at all. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't support them, because the vast, vast, vast majority of what they do is a whole lot of good around the world. But corrupt things happen in corrupt places. And in that particular case, I saw with my own eyes the kind of corruption that happens when bad people use good people's good intentions against them. And that's exactly what happens in these countries like Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and Saudi Arabia and Turkey and all these places, okay? So speaking of Turkey, let me just stop right there and quick commercial for chuckholton.com. I think we made it over 13,000 subscribers over there, and that's fantastic because it is like an insurance policy for me against the algorithm on YouTube, because I have to be very careful about what I say on YouTube, and I got to talk about Smurfs and water balloons and all these stupid stuff, because I can't just seriously talk about a serious topic without getting demonetized by the algorithm. And so if I hope to be able to support the people that I'm supporting with the proceeds of this, and maybe support myself a little bit so that I can keep doing this job, I need to have something outside of YouTube so that I can, just be insulated a bit from the vagaries of their algorithm here, this AI. So if you like the reporting and you like the stuff we're putting out and you'd like to see me continue doing it, I would appreciate it if you'd go over there and at least subscribe. That's free. Over there. You can sign up as a supporter for $7 a month, and that's not bad either. I certainly won't turn that down, but you can, if you subscribe, then if, God forbid, I end up saying the C word, that disease that we had in 2021, cowardice. No, I'm sorry, not cowardice. It was another C word about that disease that happened. If I slip up and say it and get banned from YouTube for life, at least you will be able to find out what I'm doing and what happened, because you belong as a subscriber over on Locals. Now, I'm not going to spam you. I'm not going to send you emails all the time. I don't do that. I do post things on there, and if you like, you can get on and you can. Whoop! Looks like we got a slow bit rate, looks like. I just post things on the Locals page that you can get on there and see. I don't send you tons of things in your email box, okay? And that's my commitment to you, okay? So now let's move on. Let's talk about the next elephant in the room, and that's Turkey. So as you know, Turkey is a NATO ally, and they, participate in NATO training exercises with the United States. They send their soldiers and our soldiers, and we go and we do things together, not as much as we used to, but it still happens. We have a very important military base in Turkey called Incirlik Air Base that has U.S. nuclear warheads in silos on that base. And maybe that wasn't such a great idea. We still give Turkey has the 8th largest military in the world. Most powerful military. They've got Western weapons, they've bought lots of stuff from the United States. They've got fighter jets. They got, they don't have a navy, thank heaven. So they're not really expeditionary. And I say thank heaven because recently in this war, Turkey has been threatening Israel that they're going to come down here with their army and invade Israel if Israel invades Lebanon. Now, I don't think that they actually could do that. I don't think they actually would do that, but they've been talking that way, and that's because their leader, Erdogan, President Erdogan is a straight up Muslim Brotherhood sycophant. He is completely Muslim Brotherhood. He's ISIS to the core. And we've seen it. I've been in Syria. I've seen what the Turkish army was doing. I've seen them fighting alongside the Free Syrian Army, which is a conglomeration. It's like we call it the United Nations of ISIS. It's a lot of former ISIS fighters, when ISIS got defeated, just went and joined the Free Syrian Army. They are brutal, every bit as brutal as ISIS, but now they're funded by Turkey. They're backed up by F-16s and tanks. Those are things that ISIS never had. And so the United States is still giving Turkey about $150 million a year. Most of that is in military assistance, once again. Now, all of these things, like I said, the money that we give to the Palestinian Authority, the money we give to train their presidential guards, the money that we give to groups that then funnel that money into terrorist causes, like that's the next point. UNRWA, the United States gives, or I don't know, I think we've stopped giving at this point for the time being, but the Biden administration has been trying to turn it back on. I don't know if they succeeded at that. Let's see here, just to get my numbers right. Looks like the United States provided annually to UNRWA about $235 million. In 2019, it was $360 million. Before the Trump administration got in office and cut that drastically, they were giving, during the Obama administration, $350 to $400 million a year. And we know for sure now that a lot of that money, if not all of it, I mean, if UNRWA wasn't a wholly owned subsidiary of Hamas, they were pretty close to that. And so a lot of that money was going directly into Hamas's coffers. There are two other UN organizations in this region that we also give money to. One is UNIFIL in Lebanon. Their job, the whole point of UNIFIL when they got stuck in there in 1973, was to keep Hezbollah away from the border. That was like their main mission. And they've failed spectacularly at that and at profane cost. So the U.S. usually contributes $150 million or so to UNIFIL. In Syria, we have there's a UN agency. Well, now I already talked about some of these, humanitarian assistance. I have to narrow my search a little bit. Okay, it's called UNDOF. It should be UNDOF. United Nations Disengagement Observer Force. What pipe cleaner neck thought that up? We only give them $10 to $15 million a year, but they don't do anything. They've been there for a long time, since 1973, following the Yom Kippur War. And let's see, how many people? See how many people that supports. About 1,000 to 1,200 peacekeepers, and they literally sit there in along the border and just kind of go like, "What did I do wrong in my life?" You know, they just sit there and ponder their bad life choices that got them to that point. They don't do anything. They haven't done anything for decades out there, and they're supposed to be operating the Golan Heights buffer zone, which is about 91 square miles that separates Israeli and Syrian forces. But they just sort of like, because Syrian forces are all, occupied since the Civil War started anyway. So for at least the last 10 years, they've done pretty much exactly nothing for a low price of $15 million a year. So we could continue. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. There are so many ways where the United States is just spectacularly wasting our money in this region. And, we're keeping so many of these entities alive that it's no wonder that this conflict goes on and on and on, because we're basically funding all of the players in the conflict. Do you get that? Like, they got to keep that gravy train rolling, man. They need this conflict because they're getting paid. And the United States is writing the checks. You want an idea for how dumb the United States is when it comes to spending money? You know how their budgets work, right? They allocate, $6 million for this project this year. And if the project only comes in costing $4 billion and that's all they spent, then the next year they only get $4 billion. And nobody wants to give up that money that's been allocated to them. So if they can come in under budget, then they got to go out and find something to spend that money on before the end of the year so that they don't lose their allocation. That's how it works in the US government. I've seen it many times. One time I got a call from the United States Marine Corps Public Affairs, and they said, hey, we see that you have a whole bunch of stock footage up for sale on the internet of Marines in Afghanistan, and we'd like to buy all of your footage of Marines in Afghanistan to use for some of our training videos. So could you make us a fair price for just everything, for the whole kit and caboodle, all of your, it's probably 2,000 clips of Marines in Afghanistan? I said, sure, I'd be happy to make you, royalty-free contract to buy all of it, and I'll deliver it on a hard drive and whatever. And the lady said, well, so what would you want for that much? And for all that. And I wasn't as savvy then as I am now, but so I thought about it for a little bit. And I said, well, how about $5,000? So I'm thinking, I've got the footage and it's not doing anything. I'll just put it on a hard drive. That'll take me a couple hours work and, the cost of the hard drive and the mailing. And that says, $5,000 sounds like a good deal. And she laughed. And I said, what's funny? And she goes, how about $6,000? And I said, okay, you drive a hard bargain, lady, but all right, I'll take $6,000. And she laughed again and she said, you could have asked for $30,000 and we would have paid it. And I was just like, okay, well, I'll know that for next time for sure. That is the way the US government works. Because it's not their money. It's your money. They can always take some more, and they just say that they're taking it from those evil rich people, but they're not. Yes, they are. They're taking it from the rich people, but they're also taking it from you. The government is very sneaky about all the ways it finds to take your money and not call it taxes. There's taxes on your cell phone bill. There's taxes on your plane tickets. There's taxes on your gasoline. There's taxes on the roads you drive on, the road tolls, your license plate. This is all money going to the federal government. To say nothing of the sales tax for your state, and for the gas tax for your state, the road tolls for your state, of the property taxes and all the other taxes you have to pay. Most people have no idea that they pay half or more of their income every year in taxes. And if you had to, if we made it illegal for the government to collect all of that as you go along, just as a little line item on your cell phone bill, or, take it out of your paycheck at work or something like that. If they made it mandatory that you pay once a year you have to write a check for what you owe the government, man, a lot of people would be getting voted out of office, because if you had any idea what you're actually paying in taxes, it would make you sick at your stomach. And that is why your vote is important, for sure. In some places, they do tax the water supply, Lisa Wilkes. In Maryland, you get a rainwater tax for the amount of rain that falls on your property. And they would probably tax the air you breathe if they could figure out a way to measure it. You know, the government never met a tax it didn't like. And, you know, the turnpike in West Virginia that goes from southern West Virginia up to Charleston, when they started that, they said, we're going to make this a toll road and we're going to collect tolls on it just until the road is paid off. Once the construction of the road is paid for, then the tolls will go away. Well, the construction for the road was paid for about 30 years ago. And if you do a round trip from my house to the Charleston airport and back, it's $16 in taxes now, or in road tolls to get back and forth. They just keep raising them. They tax because they can. I paid $21,000 in airline ticket taxes last year. That is mind-boggling to me. I mean, it's just crazy. Permit fees, they just tax you on your taxes. So what's sad about that is that because they have all these tax slaves out there, 330 million tax slaves floating around, you say, well, no, a lot of those people are under the poverty line, so they don't pay taxes to the federal government. Well, that might be true. However, they pay taxes in other ways. They still pay sales taxes. They pay gas taxes. They pay property taxes if they own property. All of those things make everything more expensive for them, for everybody. And so they are paying, to say nothing of the fact that people who live under the poverty line pay 90% of the taxes on, like, cigarettes, okay? Federal taxes on cigarettes. They pay about 90% of, they buy about 90% of the lottery tickets. I did a study on that when I was in college. So poor people buy almost all the lottery tickets. That's basically a tax on people who are bad at math. And so that's a voluntary tax, but it's still a tax. And since they have access to this and it's not their money, then yeah, why not? We'll throw it around here. We'll throw it around there. We'll give some to, the enemies here and enemies there. But if you want to have a coherent geopolitical strategy to help our allies and to harm our enemies and to make our adversaries respect us, we can't go on like this. We can't keep trying to buy everybody off for everything. Because what we do is we foment these conflicts around the world. We make them happen. I'll tell you one more story and then I'll be done. I was in Kenya one time, in Nairobi, and somebody said, hey, you want to go see the largest slum in the world? And I was like, yeah, let's go see it. That'll work for some of the stories I'm doing. So we drove out to this place north of Nairobi, Kenya. And there's this absolutely massive slum. I forget the name of it, but it just goes on to the horizon. And I don't know, there must be 1 million people that live in there, in like cardboard shacks, tin shacks, stuff like that. No running water, no electricity to speak of, no sewage. It just runs in like if you're walking between the houses, there's just sewage running down you're walking in sewage. It's terrible. And right in the middle of that slum, there's a big, like, 7-story building. And I'm like, well, what's that building out there? And they said, oh, that's the World Food Program headquarters for Kenya. I said, wow, well, that's probably a good place for the World Food Program headquarters, because there's a lot of hungry people all around the world, here that need them. So that they were smart to put their headquarters right in the middle of the slum. And they said, no, the headquarters was here first. the headquarters created the slum. Because when they moved in and they started giving out free stuff, they brought all the people in, and they exacerbated the problem that they meant to address. This is how aid works, unfortunately. So the lesson from all this is that one of the reasons why, if you just wonder, because why is this always going on over here? This is a constant, just cauldron of violence and hatred and, cruelty and suffering. Well, it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons is because we in the United States are paying every side of this conflict. We're paying both sides. We're supporting the whole thing. And if that doesn't make your blood boil, I don't know what will. All right, so if you have any questions, ask them now. Otherwise, I'm going to get going. I got to pack. I got to leave in the morning and head out. So let's see here. I don't see a bunch of questions, so that's good. Maybe you're just listening. We got 1,900 people online. Please make sure that you subscribe to the, look, half the people that watch this thing are not subscribed, and I'm about that close to 110,000. And I think if a few of you just did me a favor, doesn't cost you anything, go hit the subscribe button right now on YouTube. I could get over 110,000 before I leave tomorrow, and that'd make me very happy. So do me a favor, go hit the subscribe button. This lesson that I'm giving you about this conflict holds true also for the chaos we see at the southern border, for the chaos we see in Europe. Very often, the pull factor of free stuff is the catalyst for violence and chaos and mayhem and suffering. I do not have a spring roll recipe for you. Sorry about that. Somebody asked me for a spring roll recipe. What? Okay. Whatever. All right, so a couple more things. If we're sending all this money anyway, why did we leave Afghanistan? Yeah, we're also sending the Taliban $40 million a month right now, even after we pulled out. Isn't that great? Doesn't that just make you have the warm fuzzies? How do the Israelis feel about the UK cutting about 10% of their funding? Not great, and they were even less happy about the UK restoring funding to UNRWA recently. Crazy. Do you think people will fight big government or follow the leader in submission? There's a lot of sheep in the world. There's a lot of people that don't want to think about it. How many people do you meet who go, yeah, I'm not into politics. I don't like politics. I mean, I don't like politics either, but we ought to understand what's going on. We ought to have an understanding. I wanted to show you this video because this represents psychological terror by Hamas. So I'm going to show this to you. This is what Whoop.
בן 32 מאשקלון. שמי כרמל גת, בת 39 מבארי. My name is Hirsch Goldberg Poland. I was born in Berkeley, California, and I currently live in Jerusalem, Israel.
That says at the bottom, ours, and we will show you their last messages. In the next few hours, we will show you their last messages. Those were the 6 hostages that were just eliminated in Gaza by Hamas. And they are engaging in psychological warfare by showing the videos of them when they were still alive and threatening to release more video messages from them before they were brutally murdered. So It is. It is pure evil. Pure evil. So be praying for Israel and for their families. That's really sad, but it's crazy. Crazy. Where am I going? I'm going to Dubai tomorrow, and then the next day I'm going back to Panama for about a week, and then I'm going to Armenia through Abu Dhabi, and then I'm going to Jordan, and then I'm going back here to Israel, and then I don't know what I'm doing after that. So that's the plan. And I will keep you updated from wherever I am as best I can. Is the live you held on your locals page last week not available to rewatch? No, it should be there. Should be, just scroll down. It should be there. Can you define the words rebels and insurgents, as I don't understand these terms as they relate to war? So rebels could be a group of people who oppose the government that are organized and are engaging in more conventional style warfare against the government that they don't like. Insurgents hide among the populace, act like civilians, and use civilian areas as their hiding places until they pop out and start shooting or, committing shenanigans. So insurgencies are fighting by other means, not by conventional means where you get, a company or a platoon or a brigade of soldiers together and go march off to war. Rebels can do that. A rebel army can do that. They're doing that in Burma right now. They're actually organizing into actual military units and fighting against the Burmese government, where insurgents are usually weaker than that. And so if they went toe-to-toe with the enemy, they would die. So they hide among the civilian populace, pretend to be civilians, and engage in sabotage rather than face-to-face confrontation. That's the difference. Even if Israel didn't fire another bullet, what guarantee is there that the hostages will be released? There's none. And you're making a deal with the devil here. If they make a ceasefire, with beyond a shadow of a doubt, Hamas is not going to abide by it. They're only going to abide by it so long as it suits their needs. And the second they, the takfir, the second that they see some reason why they need to renege on the deal, they will certainly do that. No question. Don't any of these countries pay any money back, or do they have to? No, they don't. Why has Gaza been called a slum despite there being footage showing foreign cars and fancy food? Yeah, Gaza wasn't, there were places in Gaza that weren't all that bad. It certainly could have been much, much better than it was if the leadership had used all the money they were getting to develop infrastructure, but they didn't. They used it to develop military infrastructure instead. Can Israel cut their internet? Probably. Can we pray please? Certainly. What is the likelihood that the Iranian mullahs will be overthrown? Not likely. They have a pretty iron grip on power, unfortunately. Can you, okay, so that was that one. Are you going to the war zone in Aurora, Colorado? No, I'm going to stay here in Israel where it's safe. We don't leave anyone behind. Okay. Who is responsible for giving all this money to those countries? The U.S. State Department mostly. The U.S. government does that. And maybe you can call your Congress critter and give him an earful about this and be like, I am absolutely horrified to hear that we are giving money to Hezbollah, to Hamas, to the Palestinian Authority, and they are literally using that money to foment terror against Israel. And that needs to stop. And if you want to get reelected, you better make it stop. You could try that. Okay, I think that is it. All right, so let's go. I will pray since somebody asked me to, and then we'll be done. And I will go pack up and get ready to go to the airport. So, Lord God, thank you so much for those who are coming over here that have been following this channel for all the engagement that we get. Lord, we couldn't do this without all that engagement, so I'm grateful for them. I pray that you would just bless all the people who are here hearing my voice right now. They're all facing their own troubles. Everyone's fighting a battle that we know nothing about, but you know, Lord. And so I pray that you would reach into their lives and you would touch each one of them and that you would let them know you're here, you know, you're listening, and you're powerful to save. Lord, I pray if they're hearing my voice and they have not submitted their lives to you, that they would realize that there is an entire world of meaning and purpose out there for them that you have just waiting, a mission for them to accomplish if they will only submit themselves to their Creator. Father, I pray that you would give us wisdom as we go throughout our day and give us diligence to work like we're working for you, and that people would see the joy and the faith that we have and would want that joy and that faith so that we can build your kingdom, Lord, here on earth. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, thank you very much. And I am not too, thank you for the well wishes for my travel. I think it'll be a nice, smooth trip because I got upgraded from Dubai to Newark. That's a 15-hour flight, people. Lay flat beds, baby. I'm very happy about that. And I didn't pay for it. That comes from being in the Million Miler Club, from flying a couple 100,000 miles a year. And they had some space, and so they gave it to me. And I'm so excited. I'm going to take an Ambien and a Tramadol, and it's going to be like time travel. I'm going to be like, boom, just out all the way across the Atlantic and wake up when we're coming in on short and final in Newark. So then from there, I bounce down to Panama. All right. So you should hear from me again when I'm in Dubai tomorrow. That's my plan. If not, don't worry. I'll get on as soon as I can, and we'll talk some more. So God bless you. Have a good night. We'll see you.